think we were pretty close to getting the score right.
42-10. Yeah,
between the two of us.
I was yelling for them to go for 2 at the end.
Weird game, a weird place Florida State finds themselves in, I think. Some of that is a really good sign. My initial watch, I've seen the game 3 times now. My initial watch live, I was really frustrated with the way Florida State came out, in that you hoped coming off of a bye week you'd get some things that have been issues cleaned up. You'd have these things that have really kind of plagued you from taking the next step and from growing. You'd have that cleaned up, and they weren't cleaned up. They weren't buttoned up. I think it's a big picture look. They weren't buttoned up. And so those things still continue to frustrate. I will confess, the only way that you can be disappointed with a win of this magnitude, meaning going away, wasn't competitive, all that, is if you expect more from the team. But I do. I'm on that side of the ledger. So I've already said, I said this weeks ago, even during the 3-game losing streak, that they've taken enough strides for me to expect more now. And that's why you get frustrated when you give a game away like you did against NC State, because you can't win situations. So what I wanted to see was them graduate from those situations and become more consistent so that you could win more of these games and play up to your ability. They still got holes on the roster. There's still a lot of areas I'm very concerned about that won't get better until they get better players. The secondary kind of sucks in general, and it's not going to get that much better until they get better players. But I think that for me, that initial blush is accurate, but it's also to say on balance that when you are a much more dominant team in Georgia Tech's players compared to Florida State's players, it's really not close. I think you could see Florida State has taken a big step forward in that regard. Georgia Tech, I said, was on quit watch coming into the game. I said to you on the pregame show, and I said at the end of last week, I think Georgia Tech, we may be getting Georgia Tech at just the right time, that they were on quit watch. Partly you got an injured quarterback. You lost the game where you played just pathetically against Virginia, meaning Georgia Tech had whatever luster, whatever boost, whatever infused hope you had with the change as the coach and the interim coach. You know, when you lose a game like that, what are you really playing for? There's change amongst you. There's nothing to hang your hat on. You can't go back to last year, the year before, and say, oh, well, things are getting better. They're not getting better. Things aren't getting better. There's an influx of change forthcoming. So when they lost, I thought, man, coming down here at a nooner with a backup quarterback against a Florida State team coming off a bye that needs a win, this is going to add up to a lopsided game. Thus, we picked Florida State to win in a lopsided fashion. They did. That's the good news. That is the good news, that Florida State twice this year we thought would pulverize an opponent that was in a bad spot, that didn't have great personnel, that was up against it. Wrong time, wrong place, wrong team. When you play, people matters. And the other time, it was Boston College. And Boston College came in here with a competent quarterback and a competent defense, and they took that ass beating. Overwhelmed, they got avalanched early, and it was over. Georgia Tech came in here with a backup quarterback, an interim coach, not a lot to play for, a Florida State team coming off a bye that needs a win, needs to get right, needs to get focused for these 5 games. And they got beat down, as you thought they would. But, you know, the devil's in the details. And they did so many things wrong, even on plays that succeeded. And I think that's where the conflicting descriptors of this football game lie. It depends on where you are approaching the game from. Are you approaching it from, hey, Florida State doesn't frequently beat people's ass? They just don't. They haven't in a long time. In that case, you'll never look a gift horse in the mouth. You'll say, I'll take a lopsided win. I don't care how it happens. And it's a rocking chair game. So I feel good about that, and it shows we're better than we were a year ago. Okay. If you are trying to get a real sense of where we're at and where we can go with this coaching staff, with this roster, with this season, these 5 games, then you're maybe a little bit more hypercritical of how you arrived at the result that you wanted. Especially because I don't think that Georgia Tech team had a pulse. They didn't have a pulse. They started the wrong guy at quarterback in retrospect, clearly.
Yeah, the young kid can play a little bit.
The young kid's got a little something to him. And this game was over at halftime, so I almost just throw the baby out with the bathwater for the second half, both the good and the bad. I won't hold us completely accountable for some of the holes in the secondary of a lopsided game in the second half, just like, you know, I don't really concern myself with anything that happened to the half. That kid that came in, sure, he played pretty well, but I mean, I don't know how hard we were playing. it's a weird game because I can see making a passionate argument for being pretty upset with the way they played, with the lack of attention to detail off of a bye, and the inability to execute in key situations yet again in the red zone, which has plagued us all season long. And I can also see passionately arguing the other way that when you have as many yards per play and outgain and outscore your opponent the way Florida State did, how are you going to be angry? And I think it's funny because a cursory glance of my inbox and Twitter feed and texts and message boards on Warchant seem to suggest as much. It's kind of like, whoa, everybody, settle down. You're that angry about a game in which you win, 41-16. And then the other parts are like, wait a minute, man, this is about holding people accountable. This is about getting better. This is about playing to the best of your ability. This is about being put in a position to succeed. This is about vanquishing your problems and figuring out things along the way during the course of a season where we can raise the bar. It's about all those things. And I think to that end, it's a kind of a weird game because I think you can make an argument both ways. All I know is, yes, admittedly, most people, and to some degree, I'm this way today. This is the downside of, Monday afternoon doing a show of Miami week because the Georgia Tech game's not a lot to talk about. Miami game's always a lot to talk about. So you're kind of like, well, am I going to belabor this point? Am I going to spend hours today arguing about the finer elements and details of an offense that really kind of spit the bit at times? Or do I move on?
Yeah, I mean, watching this group on Saturday, I don't know that I learned anything new because the substance between the 20s has been good this season. The situations have not. And this game provided you more evidence that they need to do work in situations. So I don't know that I learned anything new. What I do know is if you start the game on Saturday at Miami the way you played the first quarter of this game, you're going to be losing at the end of the first quarter. And you could be losing at halftime. So that's got to get cleaned up. That's where I would take the Tech game and move it forward and project it forward. You have to be a lot cleaner in the first half on the road at Miami.
I think so. Because you could. So to your point, Tom, sorry, I'm going to jump in here because I think this is the next talking point. Miami reminds me a lot right now of kind of the awkward. I know the situations are slightly different just in terms of year and all of that, but Miami is reeling in a lot of ways, and they remind me of us when Willie basically got canned against Miami, when he got fired because of the way that they played against Miami. Here, remember that. We walked out of that stadium, and I'm like, Willie's done. It is over. They have nothing to hang their hat on. Now, the only difference is they're in year one with their coach. You're not walking away from Cristobal, and he's getting some recruits and all of that. And they've got some injuries to fall back on and all of that. It's year one. But they are asking to have their ass beat. Miami wants you to come in and put the dagger through them. They are ready to lay down. This season has been a failure. They don't have a lot of hope to fall back on. That offensive line's not good. Their passing game is in shambles. They don't play with any degree of passion whatsoever. They just got done playing a game against Virginia where nobody cared to be there, and that includes Virginia. The whole thing was embarrassing. They want you to walk in there and kick their teeth down their throat and put them out of their misery. They want to boo those players. The 700 Miami fans that show up want to boo those players. They can't wait. If you go down there and take care of business and you pay attention to details, you dot the I, you cross the T's, and you're not so prone to mistakes of execution, especially in the red zone or getting lined up and wasting timeouts and doing dumbass things that we do on the regular in situational football. If you don't do those things, if you go down there and you're buttoned up and you're locked in, you're going to boat race Miami. You're going to boat race Miami. If you do what you did against Georgia Tech and blow opportunities early and give that team any reason to believe whatsoever in a rivalry game, then you deserve what you get, which will be a war, a four-quarter game with all of us sitting around thinking about what should have been had we not fumbled on the one, had we not gotten cute inside the 15, had we not – all that stuff. And you could just see it. Sometimes that visual is a little bit clearer than others. And this one feels like it's pretty easy to diagnose. Go down, businesslike, buttoned up, intense, focused, certainly not sloppy, and take care of business. Miami's ready to lose.
In that sense, the Tech game is good. It's good for you for this week of practice, right? Because of the way you can motivate off of that film. Guys are happy because they're coming off of a win, but you make
the coach can go nuts. Yeah.
so many process errors. Even on defense, there were some blown coverages that were not taken advantage of. So every phase has something to improve on big time this week. So it's a coach's dream in a sense.
It is, and coaches love it. All coaches do. Every coach I've ever talked to or been around certainly loves all that stuff. They have an opportunity to be able to say, see what you did here. Here's what you didn't do here. Hey, I know we gained 27 yards in this play. That's partly because they suck and they're not trying hard. You certainly didn't help out because you missed your block completely. And, oh, by the way, what direction are you going here? I saw and there were things in this game where you're like, that's not part of that play, but all right. So, yes, in that sense, yes, he can read them the riot act. He can say, guys, I'm hesitant to flip out about a win this lopsided, but we all know, guys, based on the stuff we worked so hard to correct heading into this game, that you left a lot on the field. I mean, when was the last time Florida State played a half where the score is 24-3 and they've got a chance? They should be up 40-something to nothing.
Correct.
I mean, Georgia Tech shouldn't have a point based on their yards or lack thereof, plays or lack thereof.
Yeah, they had more yards or more points than yards when they kicked the field goal.
It's crazy.
3-2.
Right. So you could have walked into that halftime and said, reasonably so, this should be okay. Let's 30, 32, 35 to nothing. I think I went going back. Fair. I think that's what I marked on my sheet. It's 35 to nothing.
Yes.
So, okay. Kids aren't perfect. People make mistakes. Things happen. Other guys are on scholarship. Ball takes funny bounces. However you want to say it. You give them a little flack, but man, there's a lot to circle. There's a lot to red line. There's a lot to say, the premise is solid here, but we got to tighten up the writing. I like where you're going with this, but this is lazy and sloppy. We got to do better. I didn't expect to have to redline so many of these elements on the first draft. This is a bit much. So I will see if Florida State can get that buttoned up. Sometimes, admittedly, it is the competition. Sometimes you can't escape a sleepy nooner against a team begging to lay down and doesn't want to be there. Sometimes your focus wanes when you see their focus is non-existent. Sometimes you need a Miami across from you to tighten it up, to ratchet it up. And I know fans always like to say, oh, well, it shouldn't be that way. You only get 12 of these. You got to be focused all 12. That's not the way it works. You've watched enough college football to know that even the best teams have afternoons where you're wondering, what is this? What is going on here? Where's the focus? Where's the intensity? Where's the attention to detail? That's true, too. Georgia's had several games that way this year. You watch them at the start of the second half against Florida. Out of nowhere, that's a game because you're half-stepping. Give up a couple big plays.
Bulldog Falcons are saying 28-3 again? 28-3 again? But then they finished the game.
They did. Yeah. They did. It went down, executed, very importantly, 2 important drives and said, that's it. That's all. Thanks for playing. Good on you for fighting. Yeah, I really did wrestle with this Saturday night and Sunday morning, and again this morning going over it. I really did. I could feel me getting angry watching that game and breaking down details and frame by framing that thing in the rewatch and going, what is he doing? That is the wrong, and there's, if you do that, Jordan misses some throws. That's 4 games in a row where that's been a trend, but he's also made some great plays and some big. I do think it's interesting, and I'll just posit this. I think that the argument amongst fans, or the frustration that fans feel right now with Florida State, primarily has to do with the red zone. Okay? Well, on that note, I'm going to say 2 things. First of all, congratulations, Ryan Fitzgerald. We've seemed to have figured some things out. We're kicking the football with what for? With confidence, with belief that it's going to go through the uprights. There's real form there. There is authority. The sound of the ball coming off his foot, everything seems resolved, knock on wood. Not saying he won't miss some kicks down the line, saying it won't be for the same reasons. He's no longer void of that confidence. You were watching that kid, you're like, oh, no, that kid is lost. And I hate seeing that because I've been there on a tee box, and that's the worst feeling in the world. It's awful. You're like, oh, gosh, I may hit a car here. I got zero chance. It's the worst feeling, and I don't have a camera on me. So, I felt for him during that stretch, but it looks like whatever he had to do, maybe reverting back to his old technique, whatever it was, seems to be the case. That seems to have been working good. So that's a red zone issue you may have resolved. Like not having to call plays without the option of kicking a field goal is nice. Like in the past, the last few games, you've come into the red zone knowing it's 4-down territory. I can't roll that kid out here. And that changes everything about your play calling. It's not ideal. It puts undue pressure on everybody involved. So I like to think that that's resolved. And the only thing I want to point out, the other thing that may solve some of these red zone issues, at least in my opinion, is I do believe in certain games, this not being one of them this last week, this past Saturday against Georgia Tech, that they make decisions going in. We are not going to run Jordan Travis. We're just not going to run him. We're not going to call runs for him. We're going to tell him to try to avoid running if at all possible. We're going to tell him to throw it away if he has to, but let's not run. Well, if you want to change the math in the red zone, you run your quarterback. There's other things you could do, but you run your quarterback. He didn't run at all in the red zone. Now, I would dare say on the road against Miami, if you're trying to cash it in and you don't want to have to run jet sweeps and flea flickers in the red zone, then you better run your quarterback because your tight ends aren't great anyhow. So some of the other things you can do are mitigated. So you got to run your quarterback. And I think they will against Miami, just like I think that, we knew they would run him against Clemson. They knew they'd run him in certain situations. They've tried to mitigate some of this. A lot of these games, I don't think they're always tempted to run him. I would run him this Saturday if I needed to in the red zone, certainly.
The first touchdown against Clemson.
Right.
You ran the quarterback.
Well, and that's called. It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's well done. Yeah. Everything. Yeah. They ran the quarterback. I think you can do that here, and I think they choose certain games to do it or not. That's one I would do it. Obviously, you're on the road against Miami. Take the crowd out of it.
It's a huge week. It's a big week.
It's a big week, but I think they're going to go play well. I think they got what the doctor ordered. They got back in the win column, and they were sloppy. They have a lot to critique, a lot to fix, a lot to focus on, and you got an arch rival. You got an arch rival whom you loathe. They hate you. You hate them. There's no guesswork here. We don't have to tiptoe around it. Screw Miami. Screw them eternally. If you can beat their ass senseless, you need to do it. They're reeling. Knock them out. Don't let them get to the later rounds. Knock them out. We're trying to win recruiting wars. Mike, this here's your chance. Go down there and beat that team like a drum. They got nothing. They look like bums. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
Hi, I'm Alex Stimley, candidate for Leon County School Board, District 4. As a lifelong resident, I've attended our schools, I've worked in our schools, and my kids go to our schools. For me, this election is not about power, it's not about title, and it's not about politics. This is about our kids and the positive impact our schools can have on our community. Our schools are vulnerable, our parents are voiceless, and our educators are defenseless. Your kids, grandkids, your neighbor's kids, and my 2 kids. That's my why. I'm Alex Stimley, and I have paid for and approved this message. And I hope to have your vote for Leon County School Board, District 4.
This is Patty Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're ready.
He's recording.
Why are you always saying your last name? It's Patty and Scott. Everybody knows who Patty and Scott.
I don't know. This is Patty Wilson. This is. I am Patty Wilson.
What is the idea behind said promo?
It's for Patty's Playhouse. We're on Patty's Playhouse Saturdays at 11. Tune in. That's stupid. Just tune in. Saturdays at 11, Patty Wilson, Patty's Playhouse. House talk with a happy ending.
Each and every time.
If you're hearing this right now and you or someone you know is active military, a veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a teacher, turn up the volume and listen to this. My friend Shannon with Legendary Home Loans has a hometown hero loan program designed to make a difference to those who make a difference. When it's time to buy a new home, he will waive all lender fees for all hometown heroes. That's a $1,600 value right out of the gate. Also, if you decide to use their preferred title company for their closing, you'll be saving another $600. That's $2,200 in discounts right off the top. That's like 20 tanks of gas in your car. And today, more than ever, it's important to save as much money as you can, wherever you can. So if you or someone you know is active military, veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a school teacher and looking to buy a new home, choose Shannon Young, Legendary Home Loans, and ask about their Hometown Heroes program. Call 844-FSU-LOAN or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com. That's FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 2270146.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Bounce back we go. I was just checking the sheet. I like REM as much as the next guy, Tom. You all right in there?
The buttons will respond
These
someday.
buttons.
They will.
6-3-1 on Redemption Thursday for me over the weekend. And that includes Tall Boys coming my way from T. Lizzie. Covered by a point there, Michigan State. I'll take it. I will
Come
take
on,
it.
Michigan. Finish strong. What are we doing?
6-3-1 is back in the winner's circle. By the way, in the mutual other pool that we're in, did you see I went 19-4?
Yes, I did.
Well, 19-4 action.
For that derriere.
I would like to note before I read the contributions, thank you, that the NFL 4-pick money line parlay cashed again.
Did it? Oh, my goodness.
Right? You know who made me sweat? Atlanta. Atlanta tried to give that away on that crazy PJ Walker touchdown. I almost lost because of them.
I feel like Jesse in Breaking Bad. He can't keep getting away with this.
So just so people know, it was a plus 167 payout. I had Eagles, Cowboys, Falcons, Bills. So
the Bills was the easiest leg of that one. That was easy to predict.
Yeah, but even that game got weird. Yeah, but I don't know. I thought the Cowboys would kill the Bears, and they did. And so I felt pretty good. I was nervous about Atlanta the whole damn day. I'm like, what are we doing here, Atlanta? Let's go. You're gonna. It's my discovery, guys, in these 4-pick money line parlay victories that I've amassed this season. I have learned that one leg of the money line is always going to be extremely difficult. There's going to be somebody screwing up the works, especially if you're trying to bank on a team that's not very good to do what they're supposed to do. So that you're going to have a problem with that situation. But that said, anyhow, that was just nice. All right, let's go through here. I want to catch up, folks. We're jumping on in here. It's Miami week. I would imagine it's going to be a busy week, and I don't want to fall behind here. Noel Kev, thanks as always, buddy. He writes, Noel's going to show up, Hammer Miami, going to be a Xbox headset red solo cup kind of day. I like it.
So that's a reference to the post-game show in which I showed my Halloween costume from 13 years ago. And I dressed up as a coach. I had the headset.
Xbox.
And then the play sheet I had was a rundown from the 1270 pregame show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Mark, thank you. Love the show. You guys make my work day a breeze. Go Noles beats scum. I'll be wearing my Sucks to Be You t-shirt on Saturday under my work uniform. Oh, you got to work on Saturday, Mark? All right. At least you're hanging in there, buddy.
This is a good one.
Troy, hope you're doing well, man. Thank you, Jeff and Tom and everyone for keeping me entertained during this hospital trip. Heading home later today. And it's always Go Noles. You're damn right, Troy. That's good to hear. Good. I'm glad you're headed home. Glad you're out of the hospital. And finally, Z-Chan writes, good day, gents. D-Rob had some good insight last night. Basically, we don't have the players to line up and run the ball when they know we are running the ball. Makes sense to me, by the way, beat scum. Okay, so he's talking. I didn't watch last night. No offense to those guys. I had family in town. We had a big dinner. I didn't see it. I'll have to go back and watch it. Love D-Rob's commentary. Love Ira.
He was not pleased in the watch-along, D-Rob.
Well, I think I can't. I don't want to speak for him. I can understand that. I wasn't in love, like I said, with first blush of this game, with a lot of mistakes and lack of execution and really kind of just dumb football, just dumb football.
Non-football stuff like substitution issues that look like the Willie days.
Which that is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm glad he pointed that out. That can't happen off of a bye. That bothers me. That really frustrates me. But all right, look, I don't want to relitigate this. It's interesting, and I'm not surprised to hear him say that. He's looking at it as a former player going, man.
And somebody who's coached. I mean, he gets it.
Well, and I'm going to tell you now, and this is the best part, is that I think we can say this. I think that if you were to charge Coach Norvell with the task of sitting down with D-Rob or anybody who knows the game to that level and say, all right, let's talk about this, he would own that. He would say that can't happen. We got to clean that up. It's not good. And he basically said as much. He knows
it's two
sloppy.
Timeouts inside the 20-yard line.
They played sloppy.
And it cost you at the end of the half. Otherwise, that sack is not a drive killer. You call a timeout and you dust yourself off and maybe you score a touchdown.
They did. They played sloppy, and that's the ammunition that you hope they need in a lopsided victory to regain their attention and say, guys, against better teams, and that Georgia Tech team was not equipped to fight. I know that it's very easy to go back and look at some of the earlier Georgia Tech games this year and say, well, see, here they fought and here they did that. Man, circumstances, when you play somebody, matters. When you lose your starting quarterback and the luster is off the interim coach because you just lost a game that was deplorable, and that game against Virginia was set football back a long ways.
And you're practicing against the backup every day during the week and knowing that he can't do anything. Yeah.
Then you hit the field without a sense of urgency or belief, and you look like that. You look like that team. Let's just get this over with. Let's get that clock running. Let's go. So it's not the same in games where they played much better. I understand we can do this with anybody, and I often do. That's the point. When you go through rankings, a lot of times you're like, well, that team was a lot different in week 3 than they are in week 7. Well, I mean, we know this.
Well, sure, but, this is where you said two different teams, Power 5 teams, where there were blowout results. But the Boston College game looked very different than the Georgia Tech game.
Right.
If you watch it. Now, in a stat book, you go and look at the box score from Florida State, Georgia Tech, if you didn't watch it at all on Sunday, and you go, oh, my God. Outright domination. That's unbelievable. But if you watch the game, you see the struggles. Against BC, that was a professional day, a professional effort. Clock in, clock out, be intense, and be done. Be done with it. Tech was in the middle. Otherwise, you could have played your younger players and backups for a much longer stretch of this game. They hardly got in.
Well, we did it. We played a lot of guys in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth, but I mean, you could have had a half of these guys.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, we did play a lot of guys in the fourth quarter. I was happy about that. You could have. I would.
You could have gotten a half out of Tate, maybe a little bit of Duffy, that kind of stuff. That's where I got frustrated.
Oh yeah, I know that there's there's some meat left on the bone there, but I think it's fair to point it all out. It's fair to criticize it. It's also fair to acknowledge that it's a different standard, and that's a good thing that we're holding them to a different standard now because we think enough of the growth and the job that he's done in flipping the culture and all that other stuff to believe that you should be held to a higher standard of execution. You should be, especially when you've hyper-focused on it yourself in your own comments before, after games, during the weeks of practice. He's talked a lot about that because he knows what we are talking about here. He knows that in order for them to take the next big step, they're going to have to play better in situations. They're going to have to start doing that. You can't just talk about it all the time. You got to start doing that. Now, if you want to talk about the big picture of the ACC, which is not a good league, and you want to talk about the fact that, hey, I watched and I correctly predicted Notre Dame would go up there and beat Syracuse handily, because I don't think Syracuse is any good. I don't.
This is about when you get them as well. This is a good time.
Well, they're injured, but they were getting beat before the injury. They weren't going to win that game.
But 3 weeks ago, they would have had a belief taking the field for an 8 p.m. kick.
I know.
And the Carrier Dome.
Again with this.
8 p.m. kick.
Again with this.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about that. It's Miami week. So bottom line is, you ought to go up and beat Syracuse. They're a shell of what they were earlier in the year. I don't think they're a very good team. Now they're injured, so we'll see what happens. You look at Miami. I just got done talking about what I think ought to happen for Florida State this weekend against Miami. I understand rivalry games. Anything can happen, especially if you don't execute the red zone.
And their front seven's good.
Yeah. Clemson's front seven is supposed to be good too. I'm not worried about that. Run the ball on their ass. Now, from there, you look at, obviously, Louisiana Lafayette, who lost again this weekend. They're not any good. And Florida, they're kicking people off the team right now. There's all kinds of good things happening at the University of Florida that involve celebrating for Florida State. Now, we'll see that game weeks and weeks from now. We'll tackle it when we get to it. They may look like a different team by then too. So right now, you come out the box against Georgia Tech after the bye, you get a lopsided win. You don't look great doing it, but you get the win, and the numbers are all in your favor, and that's great. Now you've got something to at least channel here, get focused on, go get this win. I said 5-0 or 4-1 when we came out of the Clemson game. There's no reason, based on what we're seeing from the ACC and what we think this team can be as they get healthier, that Florida State can't accomplish those goals. Those are realistic goals. Those are fair-minded goals. And those are things that if you're buttoned up, you should be able to accomplish.
You win this weekend and you're staring keg stands at the corner pocket in the face. I mean, that's it. You're staring it in the face. It's like if you had beaten NC State, you're looking at an inside track to the Atlantic Division and playing in the ACC Championship. We weren't able to do that. But if you finish the job this week, get that rivalry win down there, you are staring at 5-0 to finish the season.
I'm kind of curious, by the way, this weekend. There's a part of me that I didn't look at it yet this morning. Normally I do. It's a weird week with Halloween and all that. Happy Halloween, everybody. What's that Notre Dame Clemson line? I'll have to check it during the break. That should be a fun game.
Yeah, interesting. 5, 3.5 Clemson, sorry. 3.5.
Okay. Well, that's a you did hold up a 5. What was
I think a director was signaling like,
look at me.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. This week is always the longest week of the year for me, meaning the week you play Miami.
You're a different dude on a Miami Saturday.
I'm ready to go.
It's going to be an interesting pregame show.
Come on, man. Come on, boys. We got to get right here. Let's clean it up. Let's clean it up. This could be a beatdown. You know, when there's blood in the water, I get excited, especially in this game.
I think that's the slogan for this week. Let's clean it up, but you got to do it in your Southern voice. Old man Southern voice.
I'll get my old man Southern voice ready for the week. It's not ready on a Monday. It's not.
Clean it up.
Yeah. I'll get it. I'll get the pacing and everything. I'll stare off in the distance and dream of Florida State wins of yesteryear when they did clean it up.
That old man is saying it's unseasonably warm right now. Goodness, we could use the rain.
Yeah. This is not what I anticipated. Yeah, I need a little something better than that when I walked out this morning. I woke up, so I get up early, everybody knows that, blah, blah, blah. But for no reason, I woke up at 4:15 this morning. No reason. That's early for me.
It's Miami week. That's why.
That's what it is. I was locked in, Tom, ready to go. I couldn't sleep. I was restless, staring at the ceiling.
This is not what I anticipated.
No, and I said to my wife, I said, I'm getting up. She was like, well, you don't have to tell me.
I'm sleeping.
But I had been tossing and turning.
Hey, hon, I'm getting up.
Thanks.
Great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like me to wake you up? Like, hey, what kind of question is that? It's Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Nearly a week after a Georgia woman's body was found along Wiley Road in Leon County, a man is now facing a first-degree premeditated murder charge. The Leon County Sheriff's Office said Friday that 40-year-old Devon Young was located and arrested by the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force. Young is being held at a Leon County detention facility. The woman was found Sunday after deputies responded to a report of suspicious circumstances. She was a 37-year-old woman from Georgia, and investigators believe she knew the suspect. No other information about the nature of the incident has been released yet. The investigation is still ongoing. Drivers will encounter traffic disruptions in the Leon County area as crews perform construction and maintenance activities. Motorists may encounter intermittent daytime and nighttime lane closures on Lake Bradford Road from Stadium Drive to Spring Hill Road today through Thursday for utility work and striping operations. This is Rachel Anae with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 82. Southwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, 60. High temperatures reach up to 83 tomorrow. Mainly sunny. Mainly sunny skies and calm Wednesday with daytime highs approaching 84. 82 Thursday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 77.
If you're a business owner of any kind, you need advanced fire protection services. We are AFPS, and we provide high-quality life safety services throughout Northwest Florida, and we've been doing it since 1989, with offices now in Tallahassee. Fire sprinklers, fire alarms, fire extinguishers, hood suppression systems, and emergency exit lights. For all of your life safety equipment, we've got you covered 24/7. We are Advanced Fire Protection Services. For a free life safety system evaluation, visit WeSaveLives.com. That's WeSaveLives.com.
Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place.
Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Greg Tish here along with
Matty Rowe.
And you can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3. Matt, we give away a couple things each week.
Just a few.
We got the Florida Farm Bureau Insurance Wheel of Food. We have Give Me a Second, where we play a second of a song and you guess that song. And we also play FLA or Nay. We have a lot of fun Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on
The Greg Tish Show.
Think that's enough?
We could talk about our feelings.
There's a lot.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Remember, like we watched it. We helped usher in a new time. Oh, you don't get 3 seasons. No, not anymore. I remember back in the day, you got one full recruiting cycle, 4 years. You got to have your own players, all of that talk. For a long time, early on in my career covering college football, most guys got like 4 to 5. Kind of understood that in a lot of places it was 5. Imagine now. Imagine hiring a guy and be like, you get 5 full. Nobody's saying that.
Especially now with the transfer portal.
No, not anymore. That's it. There ain't no 5 full out there. It's hard to promise anybody 3. Now, that could be a mistake. It depends on the reasoning. I know that the whole Auburn situation is a blank show.
It has been
for a long time.
It's amazing Gus even won a little bit.
Well, I don't think much of him either.
Well, for 2 reasons. I understand. For 2 reasons. Gus and in a situation.
Yeah. I love that. So he finishes 9-12 there. They're 3-5. Looks like they may not be heading to a bowl for the first time since 2012. Quote, Auburn University has decided to make a change in the leadership of Auburn University football. President Christopher Roberts made the decision after a thorough review and evaluation of all aspects of the football program, which is to say the very rich and very loud and influential alumni called him and said, make a change now or I'm pulling my money. That's how that reads. I like to translate on the show.
3 wins currently, the remaining schedule. Mississippi State on the road. Texas A&M comes down to the Plains. Western Kentucky.
A lot of dysfunction on the field at the same time there.
Western Kentucky. I mean, that's not a decided thing.
No, they'll beat Western Kentucky's ass.
And then, of course, the Iron Bowl. In Tuscaloosa, if that matters this year.
2 years ago, the school decided to pay a $21.7 million buyout in order to fire Gus Malzahn, who had gone 68-34 in 8 years. Auburn was coming off a 6-7 season when Harsin's status was thrown into limbo this past February after the university launched an investigation into his handling of the program, whatever that means. The inquiry came after a number of players and coaches left during the offseason. Auburn ultimately cleared Harsin, who later said, that's a personal attack and you're not going to get me to quit. I want my money. He didn't say that, but he did say that. Today he got it. Today is a kiss my ass on Main Street moment for a man who is 45 years old. Came to Auburn on a 6-year, $31.5 million deal after 7 seasons at Boise State. So it is suffice to say that Mr. Harsin will be paid handsomely to, if he'd like, go sit on the beach and watch others toil. 20 hours a day, every day. Dude's just kicking open your door to sit down and tell you how to call plays, how to recruit. I mean,
why are you not wearing your boots?
It's a toughie.
They were a gift.
It's a toughie. Speaking of toughies, all of those rumors before the Texas A&M loss this week, and another home loss for Jimbo. This one comes late.
That looked like quit watch for the defense. That's what that looked like to me. They did not care to stop the run all night. They didn't care to.
Ole Miss runs it well, but 31-28, your final there. That is
both things can be true. That
true.
Was an alarmingly bad performance.
So that game ends up being one that now sends them yet into another longer discussion about are we going to wait out this recruiting class? How many of these guys are going to leave us if we leave him? Or do we want to cut that check? If you're Jimbo, you sit back. You know, it'd be funny if I were Jimbo today. Whatever you can do that is not for cause, you know, like when you get this situation where running a little late today, I got a flat tire. I'm going to be late to work. Nothing I can do about it.
Suddenly he's driving a burnt orange vehicle.
I'm just like, hey, man, just imagine, like, in that situation, you are staring at the opportunity to make $80-something million and all the pain goes away. It's like your brain on a long run. We could just stop running. Your brain says. Your brain sends signals over and over again, and you have to tell your brain, shut up. We're at least running to that garbage can at the end of the street. And that's how you mitigate the pain.
Stand down.
You're like, I'm going to get to that garbage can. Then you get there, and the brain's like, we really should stop this. This sucks. My calves are burning. We're out of breath. The house is right over there. You take a right here instead of a left. We could be back to the house in no time. We have a huge television.
We feel like the chunky guy from the Values commercial who drops to his knees.
But then you said, oh, shut up, brain. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to finish these 2 miles. Brain's like, whose idea was this?
You remember that commercial?
Yeah.
The dude's knees are already bleeding.
They're sweeping up around it. Yeah.
His knees are already bleeding. And then he
Yeah.
celebrates by dropping to them. Sir.
Plus, I wondered how many times have you fallen on this run? Bloody knee and all. How many times did you get back up? It looks like it's the next day, too. Like, it's not even like he ran through the night. It's morning. Anyhow, I mean, that's a lot of money. It's funny how that works, but it's the kiss my ass on Main Street thing. We started that years and years ago. There's very few professions where this is the case, where you can fail miserably, have lofty goals, be king of the hill for a moment, be as well thought of as anybody in a business, to be heralded on high, to be trotted out there as a savior, and then fail miserably and get paid handsomely to go away and not coach anymore, not work. It's the greatest deal in the world if you can get it. Now, you have to be willing to sacrifice an awful lot, like your marriage, like being a dad, like any number of things. It can be tough, right? You're not there. You're not there. And I'm not personally attacking him. I'm saying look around the country. Look at how these college coaches, how many times we watch this play out. You got to go through a personal hell to arrive at that place.
And now with the portal and transfer rules,
yeah.
I mean, there really is never a break.
But if you can get there, if you can ascend, if you can find a way to stomach all the loss in your personal life and get that paycheck, get that long-term deal, the exit's nice. The exit's more than a watch. The exit's really nice. It's several beach houses. I'm in the south of France. I'm wherever I want to be for the rest of my life. I'm doing anything I want to do. And there was a time where I remember college coaches. I remember when Steve Spurrier got paid $1 million. It was considered the biggest deal ever. Look at this. They're paying a college coach $1 million. What has this come to? Bobby Bowden is going to get over $2 million for the first time. Those were your conversations.
And then Will Muschamp was the first $1 million coordinator. I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that and how absurd that was thought to be.
A
$1 million
coordinator
for a defensive coordinator.
I remember Mickey Andrews, who was already really well established and at times fielding the most dominant defenses in any particular season that anybody had ever seen. And he was getting $200,000. And there were times where they weren't even multi-year deals. Like, we'll see about you at the end of this year.
Mickey Andrews.
I'm not so sure. Show us one more year. Maybe we'll give you a multi-year deal. Not so sure. Yeah, nowadays you see it all over. Hell, you got guys that are way down the rung on the ladder that are making close to $1 million in some places. It's a toughie. Old dad writes, I hear Auburn is also paying Bobby Bonilla $1.2 million every year as well. Well played, sir. Well played. So that number for Florida State was a lofty one to start the week here as we see the spread, Florida State, Miami. We're not accustomed to seeing a number of that size, but I mean, given the way both teams played, it really is hard to see. Again, reiterating what we said to start the show today. If you go down there and you're locked in and you're focused and you're buttoned up and you cash in opportunities early in a game, I do believe, all bias aside, just looking at the two programs, I think Miami fans will tell you this too. I think a lot of Miami fans, and I actually have a few friends that are Miami fans, they're very nervous about this game. This is all building towards an ugly moment.
It's all about their offense. That's what it is.
Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah.
It is just a mess. And, I don't think Miami's going to quit. It's Florida State Miami week. He's a former Cane. He's going to incite all of the glorious past for them, and they're going to argue. He'll have them locked in. I mean, in a way, this is their season.
He's also tight in these games too, so they could come out and play timid. Beyond the fact that they're not very good offensively, they could be timid, and that's where if you come down loose and pissed off from getting screamed at all week in practice, that's the time. That's nice. That's why the number's over a touchdown on the road.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the most encouraging aspects of playing poorly or sloppily is a better way of saying it, playing sloppily through situations and getting a win to this extent and taking those numbers on the ground and all of that, those results, period, and grouping them with the other offensive performances that you've seen this year. One thing is for certain about Florida State. This offense has elevated to a place now where you can have legitimate expectations any given week to put up pretty good numbers. I mean, they show up. They do move the football.
Oh, they're explosive.
And this game was explosive plays. This was a lot about explosive plays. And they're also, I think game plan wise, I say it every week, game plan wise, I'm always very impressed. The game plan here was good. It was fine. They game plan very well. They just shoot themselves in the foot with mistakes and red zone errors. Now, there are certain things they cannot do in the red zone. They do not have a dominant offensive line. They are not going to line up against numbers and be able to bully teams inside the 10. But they don't do that well.
You don't need the end around against Georgia Tech, though, right?
Of course you
That's
don't.
the worst call of the game on second down. That's the one.
Well, and I've named several other calls in the red zone that they've had over the last several weeks that infuriate all of us. I will say that it's not as simple as just line up and run it. I'm not saying that. That's why I said you have to incorporate the quarterback's legs in the red zone against teams that you don't think you can line up and push off the ball. And there aren't too many teams that Florida State is equipped to just line up and push off the ball in a condensed area. So, that's hard for good teams to do. There aren't that many teams that do that well, period. You see it in the NFL all the time. You see teams get stuffed on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 all the time. So it's hard to move those big bodies. I'm not telling you should just line up and magically have success, but you don't have to be cute. And I do think I have no problem with running the Wildcat. You just got to execute it better.
You're correct.
I got no problem with running the Wildcat. You just got to execute
I
it
agree.
better.
There's power to that.
There's a lot of power to that. In fact, I understand that's one of the things that you can do to offset your inability to block it up normal. I'm fine with that.
Not against Georgia Tech. You don't need it. You don't need it.
You shouldn't. But I think you can run. And again, I would guess they will this weekend if they get in these situations, understanding that Miami has struggled to put points on the board. So any points that you can get in the red zone early in a game, you're creating a mountain for Miami that they haven't shown the ability to overcome or climb. So you got to, I would run Jordan in those situations as they did against Clemson. You earmark these games where you're like, these opportunities, we got to cash these in more than we do in some cases because we're going to have more of them in others and all that good stuff. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with us. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Ben Chiropractic. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Whether you have neck pain, back pain, headaches, joint stiffness, if you're tired all the time and just don't feel right and don't feel like yourself, these are things that we can help with in our office. Take advantage of our online special offer. Make an appointment online so we can get you in right away. Come visit our website at fenchiro.com, FENNCHIRO.com, because your chiropractor loves you and there's nothing you can do about it.
Clean, renewable energy means fresher air, healthier residents, new green jobs, and a stronger, more resilient community. How we get there is up to you. Share your input today to help shape the Tallahassee of tomorrow. Take the Clean Energy Survey at talgov.com.
Gee, honey, I'm not going to lie. Our front yard is looking sad. Don't you think it's time for some TLJ?
I'm pretty sure you mean TLC, and I don't have time for all that work.
No, I'm talking about some TLJ, like in the radio commercials. Give your yard some TLJ from the Lawn Johns.
For all your lawn care and landscaping needs, give your yard the TLC it deserves with some TLJ. Call the Lawn Johns today for a free quote at 322-2567 or visit thelawnjohns.com.
Siri, tell me a joke. The past, present, and future walk into a bar. It was tense.
All jokes aside, the trained professionals at Mac & More Systems are serious about Apple products. For all your Mac repairs, call Mac & More Systems at 894-3622. 894-3622.
If you're like most Americans, you're pretty much in disbelief with what's going on in the world. As we all know, global problems are having local consequences. Too many of them. And if the peanut butter really hits the fan, are you ready? Grocery store supply chains are only as strong as their weakest link. Don't wait for them to break. Now's the time to secure emergency food for everyone in your family. My Patriot Supply is America's largest preparedness company. Our specially packaged and delicious food stays fresh for up to 25 years in storage. It'll be there when you need it. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and pick up several emergency food kits. There are a dozen different sizes that average over 2,000 calories per day. Our food kits will ship quickly and discreetly to your door. Having food storage in your home beats government food lines hands down. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today and prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFD, Greta, Tallahassee.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Republican Governor Brian Kemp and Democratic challenger Stacey Abrams offered differing visions for Georgia on abortion, the economy, and voting in a policy-heavy debate. Courtesy of WSB TV, Abrams says Governor Kemp likes to tout a 2021 elections law she says was designed to make it harder for people to cast their ballots.
It is an abomination that SB 202, a law that has allowed racist, white supremacists to challenge the legal authority of citizens to vote, is being held up as some sort of native good.
Governor Kemp says that despite what his opponent claims, he's made it easy to vote and hard to cheat in Georgia, and the turnout reflects that.
Just now in the May primary, we had record turnout for Republicans and Democrats, and we're certainly seeing that during early voting.
Sunday evening's match was the pair's final meeting as Georgians continue voting leading up to the November 8th election. Also at townhall.com, Russia has intensified its attacks on Ukraine's power plants and other key infrastructure as that war enters its 9th month. Charles De Ledesma with the report.
Russia's defense ministry says its forces carried out strikes with long-range, high-precision air and sea-based weapons against the military command and energy systems of Ukraine, and that all designated targets were hit. Ukraine's Air Force says it shot down 44 of more than 50 cruise missiles that were launched by Russia, while Ukraine's Prime Minister adds Russian missiles and drones hit 10 Ukrainian regions and damaged 18 objects, mostly energy facilities. I'm Charles De Ledesma.
Stocks remain lower. The Dow down 65 points. The NASDAQ losing 87. More at townhall.com.
Attention investors, this is an important announcement from MarketBeat.com. Are you tired of the ups and downs of the stock market? Are you sick of logging into your brokerage account only to find out that you lost thousands of dollars in a single day? At MarketBeat.com, we know that constantly moving in and out of stocks or buying hot stocks after they've already shot up in value is a recipe for disaster. It's time to stop playing the loser's game and invest in stocks that have stood the test of time. MarketBeat.com has prepared a free report titled 7 Stocks to Buy and Hold Forever. Text PROFIT to 68285. The companies in this report might appear to be nothing special at first glance, but financials don't lie. They print billions of dollars of profit each year and show no sign of slowing down. If you would like to receive our free report of 7 stocks to buy and hold forever, text PROFIT to 68285, and we'll send you this free report right now. Text PROFIT to 68285.
Message and data rates apply. Individual results may vary. Consult with your tax or investment professional.
Text PROFIT to 68285.
The cooler temperatures are finally here. Thank goodness. Summer is now in our rearview mirror. With the cooler temperatures, we're going to need some place to warm up. Hearth and Patio can help you with that, whether it's a fireplace, a fire pit, or even warming up while you're grilling for your family. Hearth and Patio can help you with all of these. Give them a call today, 850-727-4282. That's 850-727-4282, or visit them online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth and Patio, they keep the home fires burning, and they keep us warm.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Matthew. Back in my day, way back in the day, this was always an October game. It was always going back to like 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. It was all October. You just always knew you could pencil in October. It wasn't until much later, till basically the early 2000s, where that got switched up a little bit.
Labor Day for a few years there.
Yeah, there were exceptions. I think, like, if you want to go way back to the early 80s, and before my time a little bit, there were, plenty of September games. But and I remember some of those actually vaguely. But I'm
sure you do.
I always I thoroughly enjoyed the run of October games. I don't know. I just was thinking about the rivalry in general. I was thinking about how exciting and how fun the game was a year ago. That was a November game. And being there with my dad, sitting in the stands with my two sons and watching that game solely as a fan and cheering loudly, not involved with any form of my press duties, just going all in as a fan, and how great that was. To see the game in that way, to end the losing streak, was nice. And I just hope now that you're able to add to that. You win back-to-back years against Miami. It's important right now for recruiting. It's important for this program and the trajectory that it's on. We talked about it first hour. I wasn't going to belabor some of the mistakes and frustrations I felt from a Georgia Tech victory, a lopsided victory at that, partly because it's lopsided. I wasn't going to belabor it, but I do know you got to clean that stuff up on the road against a rival. If you want to end whatever dream they might have of rectifying something of their season, which is in shambles right now, then you can't go down there and be sloppy, and you can't go down there and blow opportunities because you can't get lined up and you're wasting timeouts and you can't snap the ball right. And you got guys, dropping touchdown passes. You can't have these things and expect to have a comfortable win. But I think if you do clean those things up and you do execute well, Florida State's in a real good position to win this game comfortably. The odds tell you that right now. Vegas is looking at these two teams going in the opposite direction right now. And I think we know that if Florida State doesn't give them a reason, that Miami will lay down. It's that program's history. They love to quit. They've quit at home millions of times for all of us to laugh at. Hell, they've closed down their last, the Orange Bowl in glorious fashion. They've quit on numerous occasions.
Virginia did it to them.
Yeah. Was that 47-0?
Something akin to that.
It was just like, sirs, I hope you're limber. It was tough. They've had a lot of losses like that over the years, front runners. And so you want obviously to give them the reason to quit. Give them the reason to reach back and find that inner bitch that's in them. Let's go. Go find it. It's always there for you to reach back and grab, Miami.
48-0 was the final on that night.
I cheated Virginia.
At 1 point.
I did. I cheated them.
Which is all they needed that night, incidentally.
Would have won the game with just the rouge in Canadian football. I always wanted American football to incorporate the rouge. They never will. But I always liked it. I always thought, that makes field goals interesting. So you have to get past a certain line in order to get the point.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I never learned what the rouge was.
It's a weird sort of deal, yeah. There was a stretch in Canadian football early on with ESPN. They lacked programming when they first started. So you saw the most bizarre sports all the time. You think you didn't even know were sports. But one of the first things they got that people were kind of drawn to was Canadian football. They had Canadian football, and they had Australian rules football. That's when I fell in love with Australian rules football. We're getting off the subject. Now. I want to get back to Florida State.
I would love to get into Australian rules football.
It's awesome.
In this day and age, you'd feel like it's more, I don't know, findable on television.
It is findable. You can find it. Yeah, it's great. I told you my one brother lived over in Australia for 3 years for work purposes, he and his family, and they loved it. And they got into it. They'd go to games, and they had a local team. And I could see why. It's fun. There's a whole lot of ass kicking going on in Australian rules football. It incorporates a lot of the things we like.
The one thing we did well, because when you said ass kicking, it flashed in my brain. In the second half, which I get you're throwing away. They got downhill on some blitzes in a way that they have not.
That is true. They didn't fear the pass.
Right. Now, in the first half, we did the same thing we usually do, which is the blitz takes forever to get home and you don't even get there. One of the sacks, the kid just fell down because the blitz existed. We didn't really do much in terms of bringing the quarterback to the ground.
Yeah, kid kind of just...
But there's a sack, I think it's Bethune in the second half.
Yeah.
Where they overload the left, and they're going at 100 miles an hour. That was great to see.
We were big on overloads.
Yeah.
If you noticed, That's actually the only time Georgia Tech had some success too, was when they had overloads. I will say this. The two times that we've blown somebody out this year, yes, overmatched opponent, bad set of circumstances for that opponent in that stadium right here. But we came out with our hair on fire defensively in overloads. We did that a lot. We did that to Boston College too, just swamped a side of the line, and they weren't equipped to deal with
more
it.
than you can block, and then the quarterback account for it or don't.
Yeah,
and he didn't.
Well, and even if he does, if his guys can't get open or they lack athleticism,
There's another one later in the half with Deloach where there are times when you see NFL burst out of him straight
out
ahead.
of his speed,
But there's a lot of things you still got to clean up. Our eyes were in terrible places a lot at linebacker this weekend.
I don't think we're very good at linebacker, Tom. I've talked about this all year long. I think we got two guys you can count on. They're not great. They're okay, and they got nothing behind them.
Much better than we've had, but still, there's room to go.
Well, and that's where you get into the interesting discussion about where is Florida State. Mike Norvell said his comments were, it's huge for our program. It's a game that you come to Florida State to come and play in, but for us to go and play the best that we can there, we still have to clean up a lot of these mistakes. Our guys embrace that. I agree. He also said this week, it's huge for us. It is, Mike. It is. It's a very important week. It's a very important week for the program. It's a very important week for him. It's a very important week for these players. We're all in it together in this situation here. We're all watching the climb. We're all rooting for it. We all want to see the necessary steps being taken. We'd like to see some of this sloppiness cleaned up. But when you are fighting for players, it takes on a much greater sense of urgency. I mean, right now, you're in a unique situation in the state of Florida with these three big schools, the behemoths of the state, really trying to prove to recruits who it is that's going to come out on top, who it is that's going to emerge, who it is that is in the best possible position to succeed. And I think if you're a recruit right now, you see signs that obviously maybe Mike Norvell and that staff have turned the corner and there are better days ahead for Florida State. Certainly right now you would see evidence of that. But you'd also say, I'm not entirely certain. I don't know. They just came off a 3-game losing streak. We'll see. They still fall victim to the same stupid stuff they've been doing the last 3 years. So we'll see. Then you might look at a Miami and you'd say, well, I understand what everybody's telling me, that they've got an influx of money and Cristobal is one of their own and he's a really good recruiter. He's proven that at other places. Maybe Miami's star is rising, even though on the field in year one it doesn't look so good. But then you see them, they can't score an offensive touchdown against Virginia. And you go like, I'm not so sure they're as close as I thought they were. They may be a long ways away. And then you're looking at Napier, Florida, and you're like, you see moments in time. They played right there with Tennessee. They only lost by 10. They moved the ball up and down the field. That obviously is a program that has a huge alumni and financial backing. So maybe you'd be inclined to believe that Napier's going to pull them out of it. Yet you're watching them lose games right now. You're not so sure. They just kicked a guy off the team. We'll see, right? Go emerge as the obvious choice. Go give yourself that chance to emerge as, I think it's Florida State. I think they have a slight head start. If you're a kid that's indifferent, you just want to go to a place that has success and you want to stay in the state. You're a big-time player. You're being recruited by all three. You don't care about Miami. You don't care about Florida. You don't care about Florida State. You just want to go where you have a chance to play and win games, right? So you're sitting back in the cut watching all of it. Now, certainly some of these kids do have a prior relationship. Either their family does or they had somebody in their family play for one of the three institutions. So, yeah, there's always going to be that. But I'm talking about the ones that really are indifferent. They just want to go to one of the big three in the state. Be the reason. Give them the reason. Go down there and stomp this Miami team emphatically. I think they're ripe for it. I think that Florida State's in a good position to do it. I think Miami, both the combination of injuries and a lack of offensive weapons, set up very, very nice for Florida State to take advantage of a situation that is ready-made for an ass stomping. But you got to clean all that other stuff up. You can't, the 13 penalties, the timeouts wasted, the red zone opportunities, all that stuff that we talk about. Perhaps some people say we dwell on too much. It's because if you're going to take that next step and emerge, these are the things that you're cleaning up. And I think coming out of a bye week, it's fair to say, man, you didn't get that cleaned up.
Yeah, there's more of the same. But that's also a sign that's worth praising for the coaching staff.
Of course
they've gotten this program to a place where you expect more, period.
Oh, and they've gotten this program to a place where even when they're that sloppy against teams that are inferior, they'll still put it on them.
Right.
They'll still put it on.
That's improvement by itself. That's improvement.
That is improvement.
But you don't want to dwell on that because I don't want to live here in this neighborhood. We're moving up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that big development where the farther you go in, the nicer the houses are. We're about, closer to the halfway point than we've been in some time.
Yeah. No.
We've been street side. There's a lot of traffic that you can hear outside the windows.
Oh, man.
Sirens
Yeah.
and such, right? And now we're starting to creep into that development deeper and deeper. But I don't want to stay in this neighborhood. We got a few more to go, and there are some gates to go through to get there.
It's in there, though. That's the other part of it. I think it would be completely unreasonable if we were asking for these steps to be taken from a team that was devoid of talent or that was simply incapable of executing to the level that we're expecting. That's where it's changed, is that we now know there's better in there. We've seen it. We've watched it. A lot of times it's for 2 quarters at a time or a quarter at a time, sometimes a full game. Every now and again, they put it all together. You go, there it is. But it's been rare. It's been rare. There have been too many moments where entire halves you're just left screaming and pulling out what hair you have left. You're kind of looking at it going, oh. I mean, you did it for a half on the road against NC State. You came out, you dominated. You're up 2 touchdowns. You're in a good place. They're in real trouble. You're getting pressure on their quarterback. They're struggling mightily. You knock their quarterback out of the game. And do you take advantage of that opportunity? No, you don't. You crumble. You either felt the weight of the pressure, the magnitude of the moment, whatever it might have been. I don't care to relitigate that, but you lost that game. You had more success than anybody thought you had a right to running the football against what is inarguably the best front four in the ACC. You lined up and ran the ball at will against Clemson.
And you've got the ball with under 2 minutes to go in the first half with a chance to take the lead. And
that happens.
The next 4 minutes of football.
Well, it cost you the game.
Yeah.
Cost you the game. And then, of course, the Wake Forest game, your offense really let you down in that game. I know we look back and talk about the defense, but I really felt like your offense just killed you in that game. You had whatever it was, 5 or 6 drives in a row where you don't do anything, and that cost you dearly. Now you get down to a point where you can't come back from it. So we're waiting for them to put it all together because we know it's in there. You get enough of the glimpses, and they're prepared. That they're well coached in that sense. They come in with a really good game plan most days. You see these pockets where they've all taken a step forward. I think the offensive line's up a lot better than it was. Your running back room is decent to good. You got a quarterback that's taken a big step forward. Through the transfer portal, you were able to elevate the wide receiving core. Tight ends still stink. But you have, you're at a place where it's okay to have expectations. That's all I'm saying. It's okay to. You don't have to be sorry for those. You don't have to apologize for wanting them to execute and play better. At the same time, the pushback against those criticisms are that you had a quarterback throw for nearly 400 yards in this game. You made all kinds of mistakes, and it was never competitive. You blew Georgia Tech off the field, and you didn't even play all that well. That is a fair thing to point out. It's a thing to shine your light on and say, hey, I mean, a couple years ago, that wouldn't have happened. Fair enough.
Yeah, when are we racking up 600-plus yards of offense on anybody?
Right.
Yeah.
So fair enough. Fair enough. It's interesting when you get to a place to where you say, now, wait a minute, I want more. And the reason that's always born out of what is the next step, what has to happen for you to get there, because this was always about building back to winning the division, playing for a conference title, putting yourself in a position, especially with the expanded playoff that's coming, to get into the college football playoff. Why? Well, you're at a money deficit compared to these SEC and the Big Ten. You're going to have to routinely have success, and you're going to have to sustain that success. And you're going to have to put yourself in the best possible position to possibly be plucked by one of those 2 conferences as well. And you don't want to middle for too long. It's one thing to build it back up to a place where now I can expect certain things, but to get to the next step, you're going to have to continue to build on those previous successes. And it can't be because you waste red zone opportunities or look ill-prepared at times and continue to look sloppy. Can't be. So I don't think it's unfair either to have those expectations. And that's where it's funny to watch the fan base, because we'll all yell at each other. But it's okay. It's the kind of thing where brothers yell at each other, but somebody outside the family does. We'll say, hey, you get the hell up out of here. We're not talking to you. You can't say anything about my brother.
It's healthy to have differing viewpoints, but we're all in it together. And we're all in it together this week. This is the week where we all band together big time.
Oh, yeah. This is the weekend, where I have to talk all my fellow Noel brothers out of, doing hateful things, saying hateful things, vandalism. Guys.
This is the one day a year where my back and neck would take a beating from you on the roof for years at Doak, because you'll slap the back, karate chop the neck, and say, there we go.
Yeah,
or,
it was always,
damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is my week.
I'd wear shoulder pads after a while.
Oh, man. I get nervous the more we talk about the game because, well, I
Butterflies are already here on a Monday.
I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything like that for this last game, the Georgia Tech game. I knew this was a game, that Georgia Tech game, that you're like, come on, man. They're not equipped to beat you.
Right. It was about restarting the machine.
Yeah.
Pulling the string on the mower.
Crank back up. Let's go. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
You were always more than my mom. You were my role model, my best friend, and biggest supporter. You filled my days with unconditional love. And you also prepared for the day when you couldn't be here. Because of the woman you were back then, I'm able to be the woman I am now. Your planning made this moment possible.
Set your family up for life. Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance. Your friends for life.
This is Andy Cohen. When I was a law enforcement officer, I devoted my life to a career of service and protection. Who's protecting you? Give me a call. 850-671-FARM. That's 671-FARM. Helping you is what we do best.
Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, Jackson, Mississippi. Not licensed to do business in all 50 states.
Hi, everybody. It's Ed Dean, Florida's #1 statewide radio talk show, now in Tallahassee, afternoon drive from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on Real Talk 93.3 FM. Yes, highly entertaining, fast-paced, never boring. We always give you the story behind the story when you catch the Ed Dean radio show. And we are ready to go. Tallahassee daily, 5 to 6 p.m. It's the Ed Dean radio show on Real Talk 93.3 FM, WVFT.
Hey, this is Greg Tish. Here's something you might know about me. I don't drink coffee. I have never had a cup of coffee in my life. Well, that is until now. So why change now? Well, it's because my dear friend at Grassroots Coffee reached out to me after hearing me say that and insisted that I give his product a try. I've been making a huge mistake. The world of coffee is fascinating. I always thought coffee is coffee, you know? No, it's not. I have tried their coffee and it is fantastic. Now, I've got a fascination with learning more about the best coffee in our area. Grassroots Coffee is locally roasted, locally owned, and locally loved. You can find whole bean Grassroots Coffee on the local aisle at Publix, also in Whole Foods. But the best way to get this black gold is to order it online. They literally grind the fresh roasted beans to your preferred level, bag it, write the date on it by hand so you know the exact day your coffee was roasted. It doesn't get any more fresh than that. Order yours now. Just go to grassrootscoffee.com and choose the coffee you want and how you want it. And join me. Let's step up our coffee game together and also support a great local business.
Hey, I'm Carly Pierce, and here's what's happening on the next Bud and Broadway show.
We're going to tackle the age-old question. How old is too old for your kid to get an Easter basket? Because it is a big thing.
And after years of research, we now know how many times the average kid gets hurt in a year. And the number is way higher than you think.
And if you own a business, you need a good slogan. We're going to tell you some slogans that absolutely doomed a business to fail. Slogans like, Jesus saves and you can too, and Big Dave's used Autoflex.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
I'll never forget
that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
My first call-up ever as a member of the National Guard.
When we got to the armory, they briefed us on the wildfires. They were getting dangerously close to homes.
Helicopters were going out to drop water on the fires. Guys in the unit were preparing for firefighting with local fire crews.
At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Florida National Guard. Aired by the Florida Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
if a riff isn't ominous enough, as everybody else like, no, get out of here with that sunshine. It has to sound like, is death in the room? Like, it has to sound like that. But there's 12 songs on a record. That's a lot.
Everything about that is perfectly produced. Everything.
Yeah.
That is a perfect song.
No, it's a great song. It's an all-time great song. I am curious, sir, on this being Halloween, and we have all week to discuss Florida State, Miami, and we will. And we're going to be joined here in a brief bit here by Ira Schafel in about 4 minutes. I'm kind of curious, your favorite ever Halloween costume that you wore.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
So I have
nothing immediately pops to mind. I got to think.
Right?
I got to think on that.
Picture you. You've got a great sense of. You seem to.
Style.
No, I think as a kid I would have. I think as a kid you would have been really fun on Halloween. I think that you get into plus you like Batman and Star Wars and things like that. It by the way, lends itself to that. That's what the holiday is. It's great.
The Batman was a really good costume because it was the Michael Keaton one, and the problem was that the actual cowl was a snapback, and it was extremely uncomfortable. So it doesn't qualify. Yeah. It doesn't win. Probably the Scream costume. I loved the Scream costume. That mask is cool.
It's a scary mask,
and that means you can wear all black, and and these days, I don't even know if they would sell it, but you get a plastic knife, and
yeah.
That was fun. That was probably, I was 11 or 12 years old.
Of the horror movies, I will always.
He said horror, folks.
Yes. Of the horror movies, I would always be. I'm always a Halloween guy.
Oh, yeah.
Over Friday the 13th and over any of the, Nightmare on Elm Street, any of it.
Do you like all of them? The Halloweens? Like if Halloween 2 is on.
They've made some poor ones.
I know.
They've made some really poor ones. So you can't make 700 of the same movie and have them all be good.
There are certain franchises, though, that you would see anything they put out or watch it once. Like for me, Terminator. Any Terminator movie that comes out, you get one chance, at minimum. The Emilia Clarke one being the exception. Did not watch that one.
I'm that way with any of the Predator movies.
Oh, yeah.
I love all the Predator movies.
Yes.
If you got a Predator and I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, Predator's in Brazil, huh? All right, let's go.
The one with Adrian Brody is
good. Surprisingly good.
Yeah, it's good.
I was like, this is great. I can't believe this
Even though
great.
He's terrible,
yeah.
He's like, you got to look back on your life and wonder. It's like, that's terrible, but it's still a good movie.
Yes. So
with the dude screaming in the field, the trick, the bait. Man.
Any of the Predator ones I watch, and it can be bad. I'm like, this isn't great, but I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the Predator here.
The most recent Linda Hamilton Terminator is good.
I didn't.
She's 65 years old.
I didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
I didn't think you could make it.
I thought, Arnold's 70.
It's a bridge too far, guys. I don't think we can do it. I'm not getting there with you. Okay, well, I'll watch it then. But yeah, all the Halloweens for the most part, even the remakes, Rob Zombie's remakes, I'm like, okay, yeah, I got this. I can have fun with it. But also I think that happens. It's like, what age were you when they came out? Were you easily impressionable? Oddly enough, I think people of a certain age probably saw Friday the 13th on HBO as a kid when they shouldn't have. You were just hoping as a kid, you watched Friday the 13th because there were sex scenes in it. And you were just hoping to see a glimpse of that.
Wait a minute.
And then it turned terribly.
I call Ira, and what has happened to this Halloween discussion?
I'm saying a lot of people saw Friday the 13th in their preteen years because it was on HBO. A lot. And so you'd flip around. If your parents went around, you're like, there's a sex scene coming up.
Ira, it was much more wholesome. Just want to let you know before I called you.
I'm just telling you, there's certain movies for men at a certain age.
Yeah.
Like when cable became a thing, you're like, oh, that's on.
So Ryan says in the chat he could see me as Borat, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny.
But I used to, Ryan, here's a story for you, a brief one. Before Halo 2, before you played online, there was this moment where you could talk trash to other people, like you're just in the waiting screen. And I used to just play the Borat theme on loop. And people would get so mad.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. My man, Ira Schafel is waiting patiently despite our nonsense. Hello, Ira.
Happy Halloween, Jeff. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Happy Halloween, brother. Well, your favorite costume as a kid?
Dude, here's the thing. Like, so my parents, I had a single family household.
Right.
My dad was not real big into planning the costumes, so it was usually kind of we're on our own.
You were a ghost.
And, so I would usually be a bum, and I would just like wear a white T-shirt and like rip a hole in it and put on some black stuff on my face and act like I was dirty, and that was it. That was now I did. Now this is the truth. I probably shouldn't tell this. In middle school, my brother, I was like 11 or 12, sixth grade. My brother told me to dress up like a girl for our Halloween dance. And I literally was like, okay. So I started getting dressed up to go, and he was dying laughing. And I realized, okay, well, he's not laughing with me. He's laughing at me. So I didn't go to the dance that year.
Oh man, the joke was, I'm never asking you about Halloween again. You had a broken Halloween.
That's backstory.
Oh, man. All right, so where do you stand on what you saw Saturday? I haven't had a chance to catch up with you yet. And I know I read your story on Rodney Hill because I too, am really excited about Rodney Hill, and I thought he played great. It was fun to watch him get in the game. And I know that we should probably never poo-poo lopsided wins for Florida State. But I understand that amongst the Warchant staff, and I don't think I understood in its entirety on Saturday until really maybe this morning I realized now that there is a different set of opinions amongst us and about where we're at as in the way that we viewed that game. And I think that's probably a good thing because those of us being critical of the effort must have higher expectations for what this group can be. And those that are pointing out that Florida State hasn't been in a position to blow people off the field while not playing all that well are right to point that out too. So where do you come down on this?
I just think it's a hard game to kind of put in a package.
Mm-hmm.
This is what that game was because, yeah, man, early on was ridiculous. Having to call 2 timeouts and then turning the ball over. That was ridiculous. And I tweeted as such that, we've seen a lot of bad red zone trips. This might've been the worst of all time. So yeah, that's true. But I don't think that that makes you just toss aside the rest of the game. And, one of the things I think really frustrated people, I know it frustrated Tom and other people I've talked to, is that, you're coming off a bye week and you've shown that you could be more buttoned up in a game like this, like you did against Syracuse. But my point to that is, great, you did that against Boston College. Great, you did that against Boston College, but then you went out and lost 3 straight games. So I don't know that that's the answer. Like, okay, if you just come out and are clean and play a sharp game against an overmatched opponent, that means you leaped some hurdle into like a higher echelon of college football because they went out and I don't think they played well at all against Wake Forest. And they didn't play particularly well against NC State. So I don't know that that means a whole lot. So in that context, the fact that they maybe lost some focus, had some errors early in that game doesn't make me think, okay, this team's never going to get where they need to go any more than that game said that they were over that hump. So that's why I just didn't take the mistake as this huge referendum when, again, they turned it around during that game and made a whole lot of really good plays.
Tons of explosive plays, and they've really been able to do that all year long. In that sense, the offense has remained consistent in that way. You kind of expect them to do that. Now, you're right. There have been halves where they didn't do that. See NC State, see the first half against Wake Forest. They're a weird team because they are improving rapidly. And I think we'll all concede that. We'll say that my expectations have grown because of the evidence of their successes, right? What Mike Norvell has been able to do with the roster and raising the floor, the consistent effort, the skill level that has improved immensely at wide receiver via the transfer portal, the step that obviously, we all know Jordan Travis has taken as a quarterback. So when I go into these games now, I'm like, man, wait till they put it all together. You're going to see this performance where they're capable of executing for, all 4 quarters. And I think the other part about that is we know that for them to take the very next step, they're going to have to start cleaning those things up. And when you do come out of a bye week and you don't look buttoned up in the red zone again, I think frustration is a feeling a lot of people possess.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think what your mentality coming out of the bye week, not every bye week is the same. And I think my feeling is this is a team that had just lost 3 straight games. And I think they went into that bye week pretty down. Because you just lost 3 straight games, and at least one, probably 2 of them, you should have won. And then even the Clemson game, you gave yourself a chance, but you had some big mistakes in that game. So I think they went into that bye week, licking their wounds. And then they come out of it, and you're facing Georgia Tech at noon in a game the week before Miami. I just think that's a hard spot to get super fired up about that moment. Now, you'd like to say that, this is a program, if you're going to be great, then you should be able to do that. Well, fine. But I don't know that all college football programs are able to do that. And again, I don't know that it means anything differently about this coming week. Like, I don't leave that game Saturday saying, I'm really worried about Miami more than I was going in just because they had a sluggish start against Georgia Tech. Again, to your point, I look at this team now, the more I look at it, and I realize, man, this team's pretty good. Like I think we're past the point now where we look at this team and wonder what it could be. I think it may not be a complete game yet, but they can play at a high level. And when you look at these last 4 opponents, there's a really good chance they may win 4 all these games. Now, they do have to play better than they did for those 4 quarters, but I don't think because they got off to a slow start in a new game against Georgia Tech that means they won't do that in these next 4 weeks.
Well, yeah, and coming off the Clemson game, I said I thought they should go 5-0, at worst 4-1. I don't think this is a good league. I think Florida State's much better than they've been in the past, and I think if you execute and button it up a little bit more consistently, you'll win every one of these games. You really will. And one of the reasons you're not as nervous about Miami is you just saw them play. You just saw Miami play again, and they look terrible. They look awful. They're reeling right now. And so you expect Florida State to go down there and win a game so long as they play decent. I know Miami's capable of ratcheting up the intensity for a home game at night in a rivalry without question. But, buddy, they have some real personnel issues and some injury issues, and I think they're begging to get blown out.
Well, and that's, you look at this team, and I guess earlier today, Mario Cristobal said that they're optimistic that they might have Van Dyke available. So we'll see. That may be gamesmanship, or maybe he really will be available. But that doesn't change their offensive line issues. And to your point, and this is where I don't dismiss the sloppiness because of that game. The most frustrating thing about that game was it's the second time now in 3 games, when you go back to NC State, where you had a team that was begging. They were asking you to put them out of their misery. I thought NC State, towards the end of the first half of that game, and certainly Georgia Tech, it was like they could have handed Florida State the knife and said, just finish it. And Florida State was like, no, here, you take the knife back. We're going to play with our meal a little bit. And it didn't burn them against Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech's not any good. So I understand the frustration. I get where that's coming from, but I just don't know that I am that mad about it because, again, we've seen them do it before, and I thought this was a unique situation.
It's going to be a fun group to cover down the stretch because they are on the precipice of having the kind of season that no matter what we say about an individual ball game or half or quarter, we all hope they could get to because of what's on the line. If Florida State does win these games, Ira, the state's up for grabs, man. I mean, you look at Florida right now, this is not a great year for Billy Napier in year 1. And I think there are more losses coming Florida's way. You look at what's going on with Miami, the team we're talking about right now, that's kind of in shambles and really struggling in every facet. And you kind of look at that team and you're like, all right, well, year 1, they're maybe in for more of a real rebuild than they realized. It's a chance to take a step forward and kind of take the reins and have a chance to win some of those recruits that are unsure of which of the big 3 schools they want to go to.
Oh, I agree. And I've, through the years, I've always kind of rolled my eyes a little bit when people ask the question. We used to always ask Coach Bowden, and then we asked Jimbo, then we didn't ask Willie very much because he wasn't that long. But I asked Norvell today about how important this game is in terms of with recruiting. And a lot of times I've kind of rolled my eyes because in year 5 of a program, year 8 of a program,
right?
I mean, does it really matter? But I do think this is a pivotal point right now because you have Mario Cristobal and Napier at Florida. They both have the new car smell, maybe not on the field, but when it comes to recruiting, because they can talk about the future and what they're going to do when they get their guys in there. Well, Mike Norvell, that window is closing. Right, it's closing. I mean, he has to prove the concept. They have to, win games on the field. Those other guys can lose and keep selling hope. Mike Norvell can't. So he has to win this game. He has to win these games against these rivals, I think, for some of those battles. Now, it's not going to change the whole recruiting class, but they are in the mix for some guys. Ruben Bain, a big defensive lineman from Miami. We think Hakeem Williams is very solid for Florida State, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if Miami had a convincing win that might change things there, or any of these guys that they're in these battles with. So I do think some years that story is overblown, but I do think it's important this year because you've got a 2-year lead on those coaches and you need to flex your muscle.
I think he knows it too when you listen to Mike Norvell. I think he realizes it's one of the things I've appreciated. He has not tried to skirt the moment. He hasn't tried to deflect. He understands that they got to get better with some of these details. They got to get better in the red zone, and he knows they got to win big games. They got to win these moments. He's got an opportunity here. He's got to be excited about it, and I think they approach it that way. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure there. I hope certainly they come out and they're not sloppy early. You don't want Miami to hang around because I think Florida State is by far and away the better team right now. But you don't want to give somebody a false sense of hope. We've seen how that plays out. We just watched it against NC State. So hopefully it doesn't happen. It's going to be a fun week. Ira, always a pleasure, brother. Be good.
Thanks, Jeff. See you guys.
Yep. Ira Schafel, Warchant.com. This is I don't even like to think about it. If he goes down there and they play poorly and lose a game to a Miami team that we've just watched get beat badly by Duke in Miami and then go play a Virginia team in which no offensive touchdowns are scored, I mean, sweet Jesus. There's no way to, how do you explain that? You really couldn't. You really couldn't.
Yeah, agreed. That's where the butterflies come from, though, is because
expectations.
And there is some consistency in the inconsistency from this group. And you want them to shake that because this would be a good week to do it. Because you're right. That atmosphere could turn against Miami very quickly. When you said in the first hour they want to boo those players, I agree.
I think they do. I mean, they got to be pissed off. They were at home getting blown out by Middle Tennessee State. Duke just whacks them in front of all 500 fans. Then they go on the road and they look equally inept. I mean, that fan base, at least the ones that do care, have to be very, very frustrated in year one. I mean, I understand that if you're patient and you're rational as a fan, you're like, it's year one. He's got to get his guys in here. But still, I don't think they expected that team to look this bad.
Yeah, the question is this another front that you can win against? We did it against Clemson at home. They weren't ready for that challenge. They didn't expect us to be that good, man for man. The way the coaching staff talked about it the Monday after, clearly they didn't think much of Florida State's offensive line, and why would you with recent history? But Miami's front, if you look, for example, at pressure rate with the non-blitz pressure rate, front four pressure only, they're top 5 in the country. So that's how the crowd gets into a game. You get a few stops to start the game, and now the crowd, instead of going there to drink beer and hang out with their friends, they're going, oh, wait a minute, we got a ball game here. And it changes the atmosphere. So hopefully it doesn't get to that point. They've had fast starts before. They could use one on Saturday, Florida State.
Yeah, you were just painting a picture of us being nervous as all hell, wondering, is this going to be one of those days again? Is this what's going to happen here? I do. Again, I continue to think that you got a chance with some of these recruits that are uncertain looking at this Miami offense. And the other part of this is Cristobal is so conservative in these games. It's like,
he's tight, man.
He's so tight in these games. It's unbelievable to watch. You go ahead and continue to be tight and lose at home to a rival in a year where obviously things are moving in the right direction for Florida State. I think they could go away. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
The Tallahassee Police Department is investigating an overnight shooting on West Pensacola Street that ended with 1 man dead and 8 others injured. It happened outside of the Halftime Liquor Store near the intersection of Pensacola Street and Osley Drive just before midnight yesterday. Injuries range from minor to serious. A video captured people screaming and running as the incident unfolded. TBD Chief Lawrence Ravel confirmed in a Sunday morning press conference that 3 suspects have been arrested. One of the 3 suspects was shot from behind as he ran from officers. Information on the additional people arrested has not yet been released. 1 person is in custody following a deadly shooting at the Savoy at Southwood Apartments, according to police. The Tallahassee Police Department arrested 18-year-old Gerald Griffin for his involvement in the shooting that killed a 17-year-old girl and injured an 18-year-old woman. Police say the investigation is still ongoing, and there could be more arrests in the future. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MaclemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 82. Southwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, 60. High temperatures reach up to 83 tomorrow. Mainly sunny. Mainly sunny skies and calm Wednesday with daytime highs approaching 84. 82 Thursday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 82.
This is Kyle, service manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
Jeff, look at this beautiful day, man. Yeah, it's getting a little chilly. I like it. You know, I'm a colder weather guy, but I worry about it for you because you can't wear the Speedo in the cold. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to wear a Speedo in the cold.
Jeff, it's always Speedo weather, man. We can always do this. Besides, my pool, it's heated.
Which means you're insufferable in a Speedo year-round?
Cannonball!
Still gross. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, Greg?
You know all the different ways that you can listen to Real Talk 93.3?
There are several.
So we've got realtalk93.com. You can go back and listen to all of our shows in the podcast section.
That's right. You can also listen on our app as well.
Search Real Talk 93.3 and look for the red microphone and download our app. Never go anywhere without us.
And of course, you can always listen right on the radio.
Well, they are listening.
Are they?
If they're hearing this commercial, then they're listening.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
The Greg Tish Show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., only on Real Talk 93.3. The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Is a World Series Game 3 and a series that's tied at a game apiece. Phillies team's easy to like, man. That comeback in Game 1 was something.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that. It is.
Can't root for the Astros.
No, I root for people, so I'm rooting for Director Matthew.
Yeah, there you go.
But Philly as a town, I don't know.
Hemp flower, CBD, Delta 8, mushrooms, HHC, kava. Kratom floating in the pods.
We've got a new floating look. Look at this.
Let's see it. I wasn't even paying attention. Oh, look. Oh, I love it. Float away. All your cares, all your worries.
Hopefully that's you on your couch in the second half on Saturday night.
Another touchdown. Woo! Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, that could be a touchdown too.
It could be.
We're keeping that.
I will tell you that if you go over to the Railroad Square location of Tallulah, you will get to experience what it's like to float in the healing waters of the Dead Sea. That's right. All that salt just lifting you up. It is wondrous. I enjoy it.
It's going biblical here.
Well, I was trying to think of what it would be like to float in the Dead Sea, and I think, it's like being a railroad in the pod at Tallulah, floaty about.
This must be what Galilee was like.
Good times. And I will also tell you that there's a lot of fun stuff within the building that before you ever go float, you can learn about. It can make your relaxation period that much more relaxing. It's not all about getting hopped up on goofballs, everybody. There's plenty of stuff on the up and up. In fact, it all is. It's all legal. It's all good. So, and I really like the juices. They've got a bunch of different kinds of juices. I've fallen in love with them. And there's this bitter apple one that I love. It's just delicious. And it just gives you a little boost.
Look, man, your word works for clients and
true.
sponsors.
True.
Because I, just listening to you, I have not been to float yet.
Now you want to.
I do want to. But my wife is training for a marathon and so forth. She ran a half this weekend, is doing a 20-miler.
Kicking ass.
A 20-miler on Saturday. I said, you should go float after.
20 miles.
And it's not something I'd do, but I'm very proud.
You should be. I'm proud of her. I wouldn't do it either.
I said, go float after. He said, you're going to go deep tissue, something to help you recover.
Yeah.
And because of your words, about this fine sponsor at the bottom of the screen on
Yeah.
Warchant TV.
She's going to go float. She should, actually. Yeah. I did feel a sense of relief in all the areas that were tight afterwards. There's no lying about that. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It wasn't just kind of like, oh, this is out there. No, it was therapeutic. Felt good. Let's cue it up, and I'll give you the tonight's starters. Here we go.
All right.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Citizens Bank Ballpark will be rocking tonight. Noah Syndergaard goes for the Phillies. Stros are going to throw Lance McCullers Jr. Great matchup, and that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. Oh, man. So Monday gives us a chance to kind of kick it around here a little bit longer. I am really, really excited.
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Now that you've seen the 60 Minutes, how did you feel about the uniforms? Not in theory, but you saw them on the field.
I didn't like them as much as when we wore the all whites. Those aren't as good looking.
I think you're right. You've got to maybe wear white pants in order for that to maybe work. It still might not. I
think it does with white pants, possibly, but you're right. Yeah, no, I didn't love it as much. It didn't bother me. Bothers a lot of people. Didn't bother me. I would wear our classic uniforms this weekend on the road. I would just, anytime you're playing Florida State, Miami, you don't need to be breaking out goofiness. Let's just wear what we wear.
Would you introduce a different pant, though? You've got the gold helmet and the white top. Would you introduce the garnet pants into the discussion, maybe?
Well, I like the garnet pants with the white top with the garnet numbers. When you do, like, our practice numbers are the best numbers ever.
Yep.
So you wear a gold helmet, like you could wear, yeah, you could do that.
So you'd be okay with messing around with the pant, but
in the past,
else.
I've always wanted. I like when we wear white pants with a garnet top, and I also like when we wear, we've done it before, garnet pants with a white top. We've done that. That's fine. But white on white looks good to me as well. But I'm okay with the gold pant. Yeah, I think maybe the rest of the way, I just keep it buttoned up. Traditional home, traditional away.
Except for maybe Louisiana.
Yeah, you get bored there. Maybe do something a little bit different. Maybe. You're right. When I got into the stadium, I was kind of like, I'm not sure that plays the way I thought it would. Initially, I kind of got excited about it. I don't mind them being experimental. Look, at the end of the day, it's about the recruiting. Speaking of which, never really got to this subject matter on the show today. We did on Friday. I've had very strong feelings about this, and I don't know what Florida State can do about it. But the Baba Miller situation is absolute nonsense. And, I'm glad that there has been, within the basketball community anyhow, NCAA basketball community, a universal outcry against it. People who don't even care about Florida State are like, well, that's absurd. I know Vitale mentioned it, several other talking heads that cover basketball.
Yeah, Goodman, who is very connected to the game.
Yeah, all pointed out that it's absurd. That's because on its face, it is quite clearly absurd. It's easy to see why nobody, even if you hated Florida State, would think that was a reasonable conclusion for the NCAA to come to, especially not now in the era of NIL. The bottom line is, if that kid was from Texas or any other state, Florida, wherever, and they paid him to fly to come here, and under the guise of NIL, nothing would be done. There's nothing that could be said about it. Nobody would have a problem with it whatsoever. It's because he came from Spain. The money was paid back. I mean, there isn't really a leg to stand on here if you're the NCAA, and you're going to not just suspend somebody, but for 16 games. No, there's just not a reasonable, I think, administrator that would tell you that seems okay, but especially not now in the era of NIL, especially not now.
Well, they're a joke. The organization's a joke.
They are, but this is almost absurd even for them. Like that is as tone deaf as you can get. How is there not somebody going, guys, this is not going to play well. This is not okay. You're screwing the kid.
If I'm the university, I'd say, look, we offered this also to other students who live in Spain. And so therefore, by the North Carolina ruling,
you have to let it
that this was available to everybody if they just asked.
And I said on Friday, and I even tweeted about it and kind of joked that, look, I would just play him. But I know you can't do that. I mean, I know you can't. I mean, if you did it, you would be double middle fingering the NFL. I mean, the NCAA, excuse me. But they would just in turn, because they control the NCAA tournament, say, well, you're not invited. And I get there's a real problem with that. I mean, you don't want to tell the rest of your players that they're not going to the NCAA tournament if they qualify for it because you're trying to take a stand against the NCAA. So I know they're not going to do that, and Ham wouldn't do that anyhow. I don't think. Maybe he would, but I don't think so. But it is really, really, really disappointing, and it potentially more than disappointing, it may be devastating on the court for a basketball team that I think was going to be slightly above borderline.
Correct. Yes.
That you really can't afford to lose this guy.
You got two guys in the post now that are just gone for half the year that you desperately need to make the difference.
Well,
and I understand that he's a stretch player, but you need taller figures to be able to rebound the basketball.
He's a guy that I was at that exhibition game. I watched how athletic he was, how nimble he was for his size, how intensely he played on defense, the shooting that I didn't expect to see, the fluid shot from the outside. He was 50% from three in that game. I mean, he's a big deal to what Florida State's trying to do. I hope there's a better resolution than this because 16 games ain't it. Good work out of you. Good work, Director Matthew. Be well, everybody. Have a great day. Happy Halloween, everybody. Be safe, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.